All right, way to start the week with some good news. So, Germany has legalized a limited amount of marijuana. So, that's good to hear. Oh, and a disclaimer for people who are going to attack me for, I don't know, being a pothead or something. Never touched it. They have no clue what it's like to take marijuana. Whether it's as an edible or smoking, never had it. So, anyway, from April, people aged 18 and over will be allowed to have 25 grams of cannabis and grow 3 plants of marijuana. Germany has partially legalized the possession of marijuana with new legislation taking effect on April 1st. I wonder if in Germany they also celebrate April Fool's Day. Now, since this is legislation that was previously passed, I'm going to assume it's not a joke. So anyway, moving on. Public possession of 25 grams of cannabis is decriminalized, and people will be allowed to possess up to 50 grams of cannabis at home and cultivate 3 plants. The new law, however, bans advertising for marijuana and prohibits consumption by minors or in front of minors. Why in front of minors? I mean, is this sort of like our law in the U.S. where those under 21 can't even touch alcohol at the grocery store when they're working at the cash register? What, you think that they're gonna get drunk, or in this case high, through osmosis? Oh, actually, if you're smoking marijuana, yeah, you actually can get high from someone else's supply. So scratch that. Yeah, it's a thing. Smoking will also be banned within 200 meters of schools, playgrounds, and sports fields. Now, smoking I can understand, but it prohibits consumption in front of minors. You cannot get high from somebody else eating an edible. That's just not a thing. So, smoking, okay, I can see that. I just don't get the no consumption because edibles. But at least with the 200 meters of schools, playgrounds, and sports fields, they specify smoking. That's reasonable. Smoking marijuana in pedestrian zones between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. is also prohibited. Again, I get it. People don't want to get high just by going about their day to day. So, again, that sounds fair. From July, the law allows for non-commercial cannabis clubs to be established with a limit of 500 members who would have access to specific amounts of the drug. Those members must be adults who live in Germany. Why limited to 500? I don't know why they would limit the amount of people allowed in a club. I can understand it limiting it to people who would normally, it would be okay to access marijuana, but why limit how big the club can be? The government plans to launch an education campaign about the effects and risks of cannabis. Wait, we know that? I'm sorry, at least in the US, because of the war on drugs, Research has not been allowed on marijuana, so how do we know this? The health ministry has said that the legislation will help to stop the marijuana black market and will put health protection at the center of Germany's drug policy. And I'm sure that the money they'll receive from selling marijuana won't hurt either. It'll help the economy. So, of course, I'd love to know what health protection they mean. German lawmakers overwhelmingly passed the legislation in February, and its approval by the Federal Council at the end of March paved the way for it to come into effect this month. It means Germany has some of the most lenient marijuana laws in the EU, where the drug remains illegal in most countries. But the law has been subject to controversy, with opposition lawmakers calling it irresponsible. I would love to see that logic. Dr. Klaus Reinhardt, president of the German Medical Association, notably said in August that the legislation would trivialize a drug that is proven to be addictive and can lead to serious developmental damage, especially in adolescents and young adults. Okay, what part of this legislation is only for adults did you not understand? Because kids will break the law. And do you feel this way about alcohol by any chance? Because I've heard people who've been addicted to all kinds of crap say that the hardest one to kick was alcohol. So unless you're for the prohibition of alcohol, I'd shut up. Because, I mean, this doesn't trivialize shit. It just admits that people should have the right to decide what goes into their bodies. Now, and this legislation is making it very, very hard to smoke it. Sounds like it's a hell of a lot easier to eat an edible than it is to smoke it under this legislation. So, again, now, can it lead to serious developmental damage? Sure. So can regular smoking. So can e-cigs. So can alcohol. But this legislation is not for people who are still growing. It's not for teenagers. It's not for kids. And if you're going to say that young adults, I assume you mean 20-somethings. Well, you have a drinking age of 18. So maybe start with trying to push it up to 21 and see how well that works out for you in a country known for Oktoberfest. Yes, I know it's only a festival in Munich, but still. It's still people think of Germany, at least in the US, they think of Oktoberfest, so there's that. But, let's see how well that works out for you. Police unions have also issued warnings about the new legislation, saying it would lead to uncertainty. Now that I can see, but it sounds like they have made it very hard. The legislation is very specific about when you can smoke it, where you can smoke it. So I'm not sure what uncertainty you think it's going to lead to. Unless there's something I'm not thinking of that you are. Oops. Deputy Chairman of the German Police Union, Alexander Poitz, said in a statement earlier this month that police concerns were not taken into account and that officers would find themselves in difficult situations with citizens. Again, how? And how will that be less of a problem, I mean, more of a problem than with alcohol. Because I cannot believe that in Germany that nobody abuses alcohol. I would find that very hard to believe. I mean, I just don't see how that would be even remotely possible. So, again, what difficult situations are you thinking that, what's your nightmare scenario here? I just not seeing it. That's how it ends. I would have liked more information as to, like I said, what this doctor feels about alcohol, what the police feel about alcohol, what anybody against this legislation and against marijuana, how they feel about alcohol. Because granted, in the US we've tried prohibition against alcohol. That worked swimmingly. We now, Al Capone wouldn't have been a thing if it weren't for that. But I just don't see where you can attack marijuana and ignore alcohol. Now, maybe these people have a problem with alcohol and they feel the same way about it. However, unless we get information that says that you feel that way about other drugs like alcohol, I think that you're just making something out that isn't there. So anyway, that is my good news for today, and I will see you guys in the next video.